Active recall. Active recall is a memorization method based on retrieving information from memory instead of simply rereading it. The idea is simple. Instead of looking at the answer, you force your mind to produce it. This technique became widely studied in modern cognitive psychology, where researchers observed that recalling information strengthens neural connections more effectively than passive review. What makes active recall powerful is that the brain treats retrieval as practice. Each time the mind struggles to remember something, it reinforces the path to that information. Over time, facts and concepts become easier to access, which is why this method is widely used by students preparing for demanding exams.
Spaced repetition. Spaced repetition is a system that spreads review sessions across increasing intervals of time. Rather than studying the same material repeatedly in one sitting, the learner revisits it after specific delays, often 1 day later, then 3 days, then a week, and so on. This approach is rooted in the forgetting curve discovered by German psychologist Hermann Ebbinghaus in the 19th century. His research showed that memory fades quickly unless information is revisited. By reviewing material just before it is forgotten, spaced repetition strengthens long-term retention. Many modern learning tools and flashcard systems are built around this principle because it makes memorization both efficient and durable. The Method of Loci. The Method of Loci is one of the oldest known memorization techniques. It originated in ancient Greece and Rome, where orators needed to deliver long speeches without written notes. The method works by linking information to familiar physical locations, such as rooms in a house or landmarks along a path. As a person mentally walks through this imagined space, each location triggers the memory of the associated information. What makes this technique unique is its reliance on spatial memory, which is naturally strong in the human brain. By transforming abstract ideas into visual placements within a mental environment, recall becomes more vivid and structured. Chunking. Chunking is the process of grouping smaller pieces of information into larger, meaningful units. Human working memory has limited capacity, often holding only a few items at once. By organizing information into chunks, the brain reduces complexity and processes material more efficiently. A familiar example is the way phone numbers are divided into sections rather than remembered as a long string of digits. This principle has been studied extensively in cognitive science, showing that structured patterns help the brain store and retrieve information faster. Chunking is especially useful when memorizing numbers, sequences, or technical details. Mnemonics. Mnemonics are memory aids that transform information into patterns that are easier to remember. These patterns may include acronyms, rhymes, associations, or simple phrases that encode complex material. The technique has been used for centuries in education, language learning, and scientific training. For instance, many students remember lists or classifications through short phrases that represent the first letter of each item. What makes mnemonics effective is their ability to convert abstract facts into meaningful or imaginative structures. This additional layer of meaning gives the brain multiple pathways for retrieving the information later. Visualization. Visualization involves converting information into mental images. The brain processes images faster and often remembers them longer than plain text or spoken words. When learners turn ideas into pictures, scenes, or symbolic imagery, the information becomes easier to recall. This technique is frequently used in education, sports training, and even public speaking preparation. By picturing a concept clearly, the learner activates areas of the brain responsible for visual processing in memory formation. The result is a stronger and more vivid mental representation that remains accessible over time. Interleaving. Interleaving is a learning strategy where different subjects or problem types are studied within the same session rather than focusing on one topic for an extended period. Instead of repeating a single concept continuously, the learner alternates between related skills or ideas. Educational research has shown that this variation forces the brain to constantly adapt and identify the correct approach for each situation. While it can feel more challenging in the moment, interleaving strengthens deeper understanding and long-term retention. Over time, the brain becomes better at distinguishing patterns and applying knowledge in new contexts. Dual coding. Dual coding is a method that combines verbal information with visual representation. The concept was introduced by psychologist Alan Pivio in the 20th century, who proposed that the brain processes language and imagery through separate channels. When both channels are used together, such as words paired with diagrams, charts, or illustrations, memory becomes stronger. The information is stored in two different forms, creating multiple routes for recall. This technique is widely used in modern education, textbooks, and instructional design because it helps learners understand and remember complex concepts more clearly. Teaching others. Teaching others is a memorization strategy built on the idea that explaining information forces deeper processing. When a person prepares to teach a concept, they must organize the material, clarify its meaning, and anticipate questions. This process reveals gaps in understanding and strengthens knowledge through repeated explanation. Educational theorists have long observed that students often learn more effectively when they attempt to explain a subject to someone else. By transforming passive knowledge into active communication, the brain consolidates the information more firmly. Elaborative rehearsal. Elaborative rehearsal is the process of connecting new information to existing knowledge. Instead of memorizing isolated facts, the learner actively relates them to prior experiences, concepts, or real-world examples. This approach has been studied in cognitive psychology as a powerful way to strengthen long-term memory. When new information becomes linked to familiar ideas, it gains context and meaning. These connections act like bridges in the mind, making it easier to retrieve the memory later. Over time, elaborative rehearsal builds a dense network of associations that supports deeper understanding and recall.